Can you hear me now? I heard a squeak. Okay. How about now? How about now? Can you hear me now? Yay! I'm going to try and get you on live. I'm not sure why it didn't. Whenever I try to invite you, it can't find you. But my guess is you're not in one of my circles, and I should have put you in my circle. So I will look for you on the... Okay. I sent an invitation, but it does not seem to be coming. Give me a minute. Why doesn't this? Okay. So I'm going to put on the NaNoWriMo event site, I'm going to put another link, and this link should help you to actually participate in the live event on the webcam. So I just sent it now. I should have put your names on it. Oops. All right. Try that new link. I just sent it to you via Google+. Did everyone get that link to join the broadcast? Yes, no, maybe so. I'm thinking maybe we should just go back to the last Hangout and work at it that way. Yes? Can you hear me? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to stop this broadcast and I'm going to try and reach you via Hangout. Oh, that's cool. Unfortunately, it feels strange for me to sit here and just talk, but I can try that and then answer your questions as they come along. I have to admit that this will be my first time doing NaNoWriMo, but I have been attending pre-planning, and basically they went over how much you would need to write a day, which would be 1,667 words a day, to finish 50,000 by the end of November. And let me get some statistics that they went over to, I thought you'd be interested in, about high-speed writing. Some of the stories that were written very quick. Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, that was written in 5 weeks. Fight Club was written in 2 weeks. And Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was written in 3 days. So apparently it's possible. So what I am learning from NaNoWriMo is that a lot of it is basically getting your words down and not worrying about editing, not worrying about quality, but more quantity. I even wondered if I were to write, sometimes when I'm writing, because I finished a book that is supposed to be published in a couple of weeks, but I didn't do it through NaNoWriMo. I did it on my own. And some of the things that I struggle with when I'm writing is that I have to stop and think, okay, how do I want to portray this to the audience? But with NaNoWriMo, you don't want to worry about that. You just give general ideas of what it's supposed to be and get in as many words as possible, and then you'll go back and fix it when NaNoWriMo is over, because your goal is to get that 50,000 words in. And really, at the end of it, there were some people I spoke to who has accomplished NaNoWriMo, is you get a certificate at the end. And a lot of it is basically on your honor. They kind of trust you, but at the end, when you have your 50,000 words and you submit it, you do submit your 50,000 words, they do count it, and then they scramble it so no one's stealing it. But really, I have never heard of anyone stealing works of writing. I think it's very difficult to do that. I think the only time that really becomes rampant is in school papers and such. And I don't think that happens in the novel world. So I'm curious, has anyone here done NaNoWriMo yet? I'm not getting any answers, so I'm guessing that's a no. So this is your first time doing NaNoWriMo? Okay, well, there's not much else to talk about. I think a lot of it is just pre-planning and how to get ready for NaNoWriMo. And what I plan to do is know what I'm going to write. You might want to, what kind of storyline, what kind of genre you want to write, where is it going to take place, the setting, your main character, and the conflict of your main character, because a good story needs conflict. I'm reading a story right now, and I'm 100 pages into it, and it dawned on me, it's like, there's nothing going on in this story. I'm just reading about this girl's life. But she must have realized that was the point, because not too much further in, she's starting to get conflict. But the bigger the conflict, of course, the better. I have heard when you are writing, you also, if you get stuck on a scene and you don't know how to go to the next scene, but you know it's going to happen eventually, just start on the next scene, because your goal is to get that 16 or almost 2,000 words a day. You want to think about, try to schedule time in. I find that it takes me about an hour to write 1,000 words, and that's if I know exactly what I'm going to write. One of the other things, tips I have heard, not heard for NaNoWriMo, but about writing in general, is that a scene usually takes about 2,000 words. And so if you think of it that way, if you have 25 scenes, then that's approximately 50,000 words. Oh, you plan to write horror. Oh, excellent. Okay. Do you have a character in mind? One of the questions is, how do you develop a character? The way I develop a character, I like to write a life story. And the interesting thing is, I went to a pre-prep for this NaNoWriMo, and they said, okay, you can write the background of the story. And I started writing, and the beautiful thing about NaNoWriMo is you're not worried about what it's going to sound like, and you can put it in whatever you want. And as I was writing it, I was like, God, this is coming out really good, that I think I want to use it part of the story. Some people just put the highlights of a character's life. Some people interview the character and ask them questions. How would you handle this? If this was to happen to you, how would you handle it? Like I said, my way is writing a life story, how she was born. I say she because usually my main character is a she, although I do it for the lesser characters as well. I like to say how she was born, and how she grew up, and the highlights. And the reason I like to do a history of my character is because when I am writing the story and I hit a spot where she hits a conflict or something comes up, and it's like, okay, how would she handle this? And I usually know their history. Once I write it, I usually know it. So I'll know in their history, well, you know what? Her father left at an early age, so it would be her inclination to leave. And if she were to stay, that's a big deal for her. So think of things like that. Another thing I do with character development to help me build it so each character is a little bit different is I will think of characters in other books, and I'll think, okay, this one is a lot like this character. I'm trying to think of one. Actually, I do like to pick them from sci-fi movies. So I know one was from Babylon 5, one of the characters I chose, that she's going to be a lot like that. So that's how I do character development. I hope that helped. Settings, I have actually, that's where I have a hard time, is doing a setting. Setting, I think because I find settings boring to read. But I think in NaNoWriMo, what I will do is do a setting and describe it as much as possible, and trim it afterwards. And what I like to do with setting is also to describe the action that's going on, because I'm always big on action. I'm trying to think of how else. One of the quotes was, silence your inner editor for NaNoWriMo. You want quantity over quality. NaNoWriMo is about writing for yourself. Also, this may help. There is something called, let me see if I can find it and then post it up. It's called the NaNoWriMo report card. So if you put in NaNoWriMo report card 2014, it's actually on the Google search, the first one, the blog post is, it's a, oh, this is just a screen capture. That's not even the real deal. I'll see if I can find it and post it up for you. Okay, you can download it. So I'll show you the screen capture. Hold on. Screen share. Okay, so here, these are the dates for NaNoWriMo. This says 2011, but you type in your word count for the day, how many hours it took you, number of writing sessions, which I don't get, but some people tell me, fitting it in is difficult. And I figured I have to fit in 2 hours a day at least, probably 3, because I'm not positive what I'm going to write. The primary writing location, I think that's important, because some places you're better at writing than others. And I would also put down what time of day too. Your morale, some comments about your writing, number of scenes that you completed, and then it goes into a lot more, number of words written today, words per hour, and this would be calculated. Oh, it even says here, these are calculated for you. So this will keep track of how many hours that you've put in for NaNoWriMo. So I think that's basically it. I was hoping that we could have, I have to figure out this Google Hangouts because I was hoping to get more people so we can have an interaction, but I'll have to work that out during NaNoWriMo. If you all are interested, I wouldn't mind doing what I'm hearing is a lot of people, what they do is get together and online, and they'll do 10 minutes of writing and take a break, talk about it, talk about where they're having trouble and such, like things like that. Now, I personally do that on my own, but I do it 25 minutes and then a 5-minute break, and that's by myself. That I think I have I'm seeing if I have anything else in my notes that would help. Oh, one other thing that I find, there's different ways of writing. Like I said, there's the scenes. People will write a bunch of scenes and get it done. Some people will, what I like to do is write a beginning and the end, and then I have to figure out in between. And my hardest part, although I know where I want to go at the end, I have a hard time writing the end. And as someone put it to me is, yeah, one of the reasons I have trouble is because I hate putting my character into trouble, which you're going to have to do a lot, Lorna, because you're a horror flick. I just read is it Joe Hill or John Hill, Lock and Key, the graphic novel? I'm not a horror person. And I kept saying, that's scary. And my kid's like, what are you talking about? But I guess they, as they pointed out, it was more suspenseful, but there was a lot of killing. So Joe or John Hill is apparently Stephen King's son. But anyway, so you all have to put them in danger all the time. I have trouble doing that. And there is a point, and I think this is even true with horror, you have to put them in a position where either A, all is lost, and then something happens that they overcome it. But as one person put it to me is, you have to put them in the position where all is lost and they have to change in order to overcome it, and you meet the end of your story. That was one of the biggest things to me. Now, I'm curious, what is this BOPE, BOPE, first time? I'm not sure what that means. So what my goal is not only having a character history before I start on NaNoWriMo, but also I want to have the scenes written out before I begin. And my guess is many of you have heard of the 3-story structure. Start off with, let me see if I can find it on online and show you. And my hope is to make that story structure and fill that out, and then go from scene to scene and write that each day. One of the other things you want to keep in mind with NaNoWriMo is that I have heard from quite a few veteran NaNoWriMos is that you have a lot of steam in the first 2 weeks, and the 3rd week things start to fall apart. So keep that in mind. That's not the, I'm looking at, this is a decent one. I'll share this one so you can take a look. Okay, so all of this where introduction, normal life, they try something, they have to try again. That one's, I don't like that one actually. I take that back. Let me see if I can find another one. I have a friend who's writing a book on the 3-story structure, and it's quite good, but it's not published yet, so I can't even bring that out. I like this one though. I really want something with several several scenes to build up. So, oh, okay. I don't know how these questions are. I wish I can clear some of these questions. Joe Hill, thank you, Terry. Yes. So you know Lock and Key. Would I apply the same character development principles if your main character is a dog, akin to Black Beauty? Yes, I would. And mainly because if you look at stories, I don't think I'd interview. I guess it depends on the story. But the reason I say yes is because people who read stories such as Black Beauty love it because believe, and I believe, animals have personality. I don't think I mean, there's differences, of course, but some animals, and some of it is because of their history. I do think some animals are vicious because of how they were treated when they were being raised. And with Black Beauty, although I didn't read it, I know the story. I don't know why I know the story. I probably saw the movie when I was little. But as I understand it, Black Beauty had a rough life, and the boy had no, I'm not thinking of Black Beauty. I'm thinking of another horse one. I think it was like Secretariat or something. But the writer and the horse both had difficult backgrounds, and they got along. Seabiscuit, that's what I'm thinking of. And that they got along afterwards. So yes, I would develop a background history of an animal. And keep in mind, I say I write these background histories as if I don't use that material later. I do, but I have that material in the background, and I don't want to give it all at once. I rather give it, hey, Lorna!
Hi.
I don't feel all alone now.
I decided to join because I'm like, I don't know if she sees all my questions.
Yeah, the questions are coming at a weird order and they're mixing up, so I'm having a difficult time determining, when sometimes they're on the bottom and sometimes they're on the top, and I'm like, okay, this ordering of questions is weird.
Yeah. Well, like, I had a few questions, and I still like to direct them towards you, because, like yourself, this is my first NaNoWriMo, but I think, like, you might have more experience as a writer.
Okay, I hope all I can do is give you my experience, and I will tell you this with all the writing circles I've been to and talking to writers and my experience. Some of it we're all the same, and some of it we all have different ways we do things and different quirks. And some writers, no, you have to do it this way, and it's like, no, you don't. So
Well,
I will just give you my experience, and then you could do with it what you want.
okay, awesome. Well, like, 'cause right now, all of October I've been trying to prep, and my prep has been, like, kind of not where I want it to be. Like, so far, all I have is the title. I don't have characters. I have somewhat of an idea of how spooky I want it to be, but other than that, it's like just the title. So I was wondering, as far as characters, because you mentioned before about character development and how you were reading a book and the character was kind of flatlining the story. How do you avoid that? And how do you create a character that's worth reading and interesting?
Um, I don't think I've ever had trouble with character development. That's one area I've always been okay, and I don't know why I'm okay with it. Um, I think I'm very good with dialogue. I struggle with setting, but I'm quite good with dialogue because my dialogue, I think because I talk a lot, I know what natural talk sounds like. So I think when you do natural talking, I think that helps with uh, developing a character. Now, I my fear always is, and I always ask this with my beta readers and such, is that my characters will all sound the same. I want them different. So, like I was saying earlier, what I'll do is, like, I have this one character I like, and I wanted him kind of a stoic character. And have you seen that movie Hercules?
Well, like there's a bunch of.
That's the one. And I just went, he's going to be like that. So I take that character, and that's in my mind when I'm writing about that character. Does that help?
Because yeah, like with my characters, either I'm like way cliche, like everybody knows where I got that character from, or it's like my character doesn't really develop well, like it's just like blah, and it doesn't really flow like I need it to.
Have you ever written a character history of your character?
Well, in the times that I have, it's been so like cliche, like it's always typical, like you know where I want to just like make it very creative and unique. It's kind of flat, like you know.
Maybe throw something into their background. What kind of cliche are you thinking?
Well, like okay, so I recently joined a group on Facebook that does like creative writing. They'll throw out like 4 words, and you have to like make everything correlate. And so with my character with that, like in one of the short stories that I wrote with that group, the character was like your typical like little kid type character, and it was just like really annoying. Like I couldn't really get out of the box with that.
Now, did you feel it was cliche, or did other people say it seemed cliche?
Like, well, okay, like the main character that I was writing was a female, and she was young, and it was just like a lot of people read this story, and they were like, oh, well, we see like you have a character, but we don't see her doing like, you know, relating to the story as much, you know? Like it was like, here's the girl, and then what I thought was, you know, I guess like a one person narration, like just her that character's narration of the story,
Yeah.
it seemed like off base, just unconnected.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Without reading it myself, how I develop a character that people like is through dialogue mainly, and through their thoughts, and their actions. And I'm not sure if I couldn't. I'm not. I have to. I think I have to read your character to understand where people are thinking it's cliche. But in a horror flick, of course I don't read horror, so maybe because everyone seems, maybe they should start out cliche and they change over time.
Well, yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe
or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll try that. But also was looking at story arcs, and like a lot of that kind of got me too, because I don't know, because you put one up on the screen not too long ago, and I was looking at it and I was like, oh man, I hope she keeps it, but you took it off frame.
Oh, it was story art.
Well,
arc. Okay, I didn't like that one though.
Well, my thing about the story arc, I had a question about it, and I wish you kept it up so I could, like, you know, post the question real quick. But my question was, with the story arcs that they have online, because there's a bunch you can find on Google Images and things. Like, the way it's set up, is that for throughout the story, or is that for each chapter, or is that, what is that?
This one was for, let me bring it up again. I think for the whole story. It's not, yeah, this one's for the whole story, to build up. But I've seen it different, and I've seen better. Like I said, I had a friend who made one, and it was fantastic. Let me see if that, no. It was fantastic, and that's the one I wanted to go with. But yeah. Oh, I turned to the.
Because, like, when I was Googling through different story arcs and stuff, because I'm afraid of pantsing it, because I feel like I'll just go completely to the left with that. But when I was looking at online, a lot of them were saying, you know, you got to have a crisis here, you got to have a crisis here. And I'm like, is that in just one chapter, or is that throughout the book? Like, how does
Okay, so here's the interesting thing about it. Like I said, I have a friend who's writing a book on story structure and such. And the fascinating thing was in the movies, they know the exact point in the movie per minute of when, like the moment where everything's about to fail. And she said she could pick it out, and ever since she said that, I could pick it out too. Okay, here's a good one. Let me bring this one up. Here's the obstacle to it, and then the tension's right. This is for the whole story.
Okay.
And the tension rises. And now I have to admit, because you want people to keep reading, my goal at the end of each chapter is to have at least a slight hangover, to make you just want, you know how you read those books where you just read the next page because you're curious?
Right.
That's always my goal.
Right, that makes sense, and that's great. Cause
You know,
like
does that beautifully. It's a kid's book. And he wrote a series. It's like a creepy series. Spine chilling. I forget it. But he is brilliant in doing cliffhangers at the end of each chapter.
Okay.
Let me just check with Terry. Did I answer your question about from the horse's point of view? I hope so. Let me see the. Okay, I don't know if she's there anymore. Because I just realized I cut off there. The cliche, I'm not sure how to handle that. And the interesting thing is, one of the thing with the story arc I found fascinating is that it's the same over and over again. And if you look at the movies or even in a book, you realize it is the same structure. Right. And yet I still come back to read them. I'm not sure if... I'm wondering if the reader is having a harder time relating to your character more.
Well, and again, like the stories that I've written, like, I don't know, they've been short stories, and the one in particular I brought up, the one about the girl, like, that was supposed to be a horror story, and usually, like, the typical genre I write is kind of like dramatic and love. So, like, doing horror and scary stuff, like, that's completely new to me, and so maybe it is hard for people to understand it, like, you know?
Right. Now, have you read Lock and Key?
Lock and Key? No.
Yeah, it's a graphics novel. I don't know if it's in. I think it's in the here. I think it's in the young adult section.
Are you in America or?
Who do you read? I'm curious.
Well, currently right now that's not horror or that is horror.
Lock and Key. It is horror.
No. I mean, when you say who do I read?
Yeah. Who do you read that's horror? Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I've read R.L. Stein, those books, and then I've read.
He's the one. He's the one who writes the Goosebumps.
Yeah, Goosebumps. Yeah, I've read his horror stories as a kid, and I love his horror stories. Then I've read maybe one Stephen King book. I'm not like huge on Stephen King.
Yeah.
But most recently, I was actually reading completely off genre, but it kind of got me to thinking about horror stories. Was the Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, and like there's like 2 or 3 chapters in the book where they were talking about like a haunted, well, not a haunted house, but like some characters were like spooking some other characters, and I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. That's so creepy. I would love to do that with a story. And that inspired me. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really read horror stories, but sometimes I read stuff like, there was this book not too long ago I read. It was a ghost story. I forget the name of it, but it was about a girl in England or something like that, and she could see dead people, and it was like really awesome. Oh, and I've read recently, Dracula, which
I did too.
It was like creepy good, but it was like not too creepy where I'm scared out of my mind. It's just like, just good enough,
was written in the 1800s, and I'm sitting there reading it, and I was like, this is scary, and I was shocked, because there's so many twists on Dracula that I never read the real thing, and I read it this past summer, and I was shocked.
I read Dracula in August with a book club that I'm in, and it was just like, at first when we were reading it, I was just like, oh man, this is going to be like, boring or something. But when I got into reading it, all the characters were like, oh, okay, I understand that person. I understand that person. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. So, yeah.
See, now, if I think of R.L. Stein and even Dracula, you have a character who's a normal, everyday character, and what happens to him is some weird stuff. If you think of it that way, although then I understand, but my guess is either A, nothing's affecting your character, or the reader doesn't know that it's being affected, or B, the reader's having a hard time relating to the character. That would be my guess. It's hard for me to tell without reading it and seeing what they're talking about. But anyway, so you're going to do NaNoWriMo this?
Yes, this will be my first time doing NaNoWriMo, and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm just nervous because, like, I don't know. Like when you told me how many words a day that is, that's kind of intimidating.
And it's through Thanksgiving, which is tough, I think. But like I said, if I know what I have to write, I can do 1,000 words in an hour, and I think I'm slow. So that's 2 hours. So I don't think that's too bad, but you got to find the 2 hours. But what I've heard a lot of people say also is just try it anyway. If you only get to 40,000 words, you still got a mostly completed book. Another guy, one man told me what happened to him. He was 7,000 words short, and he didn't think he was going to make it. And he got up early in the morning, and he's like, I'll see how far I get, just out of curiosity. And he wrote 1,000, and then they asked him, his buddies on NaNoWriMo said, keep going. And he did another 1,000, and then they kept telling him to keep going. And like at 11:45 at night, he submitted his paper, and he was able to get his 50,000 words. I was like, that's cool. So, and someone told me, it's really, it's really more of on the honor system. So even if you put the same word 50,000 times, I think they would take it. Live streaming. I have a strange. How do I know that I'm live streaming? It says live up at the top hand corner. And you have to go to a special spot. It's not called Google Hangouts. I think it's called Google Hangouts Live. I forgot the name of it. But I think we're coming to the end of the hour. I don't have anything else to say. So good luck. I hope you enjoyed it. I was thinking of trying to do a Nano write-in sometime during the month. We'll see. And I wish I could have gotten more of you on perhaps next time. Okay, thank you. Bye.